On August 12th, one judge could put an end to the hero's journey, the EverQuest emulator with over 22,000 players. Daybreak says it's a blatant ripoff making money off of their game, while THJ says we're just doing what fans have done for decades. Whether THJ is shut down immediately or allowed to keep going, this hearing could change the future of MMOs forever. Hey guys, Blarg here for Rise of Zek. Daybreak Game Company is back in court with their reply brief, aka the final words to the judge before the hearing next week. If you've been following this case on our channel, you know the arguments on both sides. But if you haven't been following, check out the card links to our previous videos on the topic to get caught up. In short, THJ argues, Daybreak's been cool with emulators for decades. Why single us out now? Essentially claiming Daybreak waited too long, and on top of that the harm Daybreak's talking about is way overblown. Well, Daybreak's reply flips that right back in their faces, so let's break it down. THJ said Daybreak tolerated other emulators, so they thought it was fine. Daybreak's answer? What we do with other people doesn't give you a free pass. Daybreak points to two well-known emulator projects, Project 1999 and Project Quorum, both authorized under written agreements with Daybreak. Daybreak especially notes that those agreements have very specific rules, namely, 1. Only emulate the early classic version of EverQuest. 2. No gameplay changes. And 3. Absolutely no selling anything. Contrast that with THJ, which deviates from classic EverQuest gameplay substantially and takes in revenue. A lot of revenue. And according to Daybreak, the creators of THJ not only knew about the contractual restrictions placed on Project 99, they were even warned by a Project 1999 dev that they, quote, could get in trouble, unquote, for their commercial activities. So, what about latches? THJ says, Daybreak, you waited months before suing and didn't enforce the rules for decades. Daybreak says, no we didn't. According to Daybreak, the only notice they had that THJ was breaking all the rules was from an anonymous email in December of 2024, which Daybreak says went to their spam folder and that they didn't even discover until after they initiated the litigation. This is the same email that allegedly came from that salty player who had the beef with the THJ GM that we mentioned in our last video. However, we noticed something a little strange. In Daybreak's brief, they also say the email doesn't mention THJ or the defendants' names or pseudonyms, but you can see plainly in the email a link to heroesjourneymu.com. I suppose it technically doesn't say the words "the hero's journey," but that sure seems like a stretch on the part of Daybreak's lawyers to us. Regardless, Daybreak claims they filed suit within 3 months of learning how big THJ's operation really was, and the law is pretty clear that a short delay in filing suit doesn't matter when the harm is still ongoing. So if they can convince the court that the proper time frame to evaluate is 3 months rather than 10 years, they might have this argument in the bag. Daybreak also says, hey, we're going to win this thing eventually, so there's no great harm in shutting the server down now. And they lay the law on infringement out pretty clear and point by point demonstrate THJ's various violations. 1. They say THJ directly modified protected runtime files, changing how the EQ client runs. 2. They say THJ used characters, lore, the world of Norath, the look and feel, all of it copied and used for commercial gain. And 3. They say THJ's, quote, news stories and systems still build on EverQuest's IP without permission. That's called a derivative work, and it's a big no-no in copyright law unless you have express permission. And Daybreak pretty convincingly shoot down the fair use defense by noting this isn't research or parody, it's a commercial game built from Daybreak's assets. Daybreak also repeats their other claims, the violation of the DMCA by bypassing protections, unfair competition under trademark law, and breach of the EverQuest end-user license agreement. But honestly, THJ didn't do much to address those even the first time around, so we'll skip them for this video. Daybreak also says they need this injunction because the harm is real and it's happening now. According to THJ's own filings, they've got about 22,600 unique users since launch. And while they call their payments donations, players are getting in-game perks called Echoes of Memory in return, which legally looks a lot like selling virtual items. And as far as us here at Rise of Zek are concerned, that's exactly what it is. Daybreak also calls out THJ for offering a God mode style gameplay, basically letting players chew their way through content way faster than EQ Live does, supposedly hurting EQ's brand and potential player retention. Daybreak goes so far as to frame it all as an existential threat to both the game and the company, saying the future of EverQuest and the jobs behind it are at risk if THJ keeps going. Ultimately, Daybreak says, "Look, Your Honor, we've invested tens, even hundreds of millions into EverQuest. THJ is a commercial competitor running entirely on stolen assets. If they can get away with it, it tells every other would-be emulator, go ahead and monetize someone else's games. We're all for emulation here at ROZ, but we've got to admit, monetizing it seems pretty scummy. Especially when you then show up in court and try to cry foul for hurting, quote, true fans of the game." So, based on everything that's happened so far, what's going to go down on August 12th? Of course we can't know, but here's our read. Daybreak's got strong evidence of file modifications and direct use of EQ assets. And the fact that THJ's making money makes it much easier for a judge to side with Daybreak. But the court might hesitate to completely shut THJ down before trial. The judge could instead go for a narrower injunction, like banning THJ from selling perks or taking donations, or maybe ordering them to remove certain offending assets while letting the core server keep running until the full case is heard. But if the judge thinks the commercial harm is urgent and irreversible, then yeah, THJ could be offline within days. Either way, this ruling will send a loud message to the MMO emulator scene. If Daybreak wins big, other companies might start cracking down harder, especially on any fan projects that accept money. We'll know soon if the hero's journey has reached its final chapter or if this battle is just beginning. So like and subscribe to make sure you get the latest updates as soon as we hear anything.